Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Tim at 10. Super excited that you are all joining us today. Today we're going to go over some coaching techniques for directors and administrators. I'm so excited to be doing this particular topic. I've been wanting to do this topic for quite a while now, so the time has finally come. And I just want to stress that this little bitty 1 hour webinar today is just going to be kind of an introduction to coaching. This is something that we can continue to talk about, coaching the coach, right? And it involves a lot of practice. Watching this 1 hour webinar is you're not going to be able to finish this webinar in 1 hour and then immediately go in and start successfully coaching your teachers. It is a practice. So just want to make sure we start off by saying that right there. Good morning to everyone that is saying good morning over here. So happy to see you. Some old friends popping on right there. I love that. Super cool. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get this party started and kind of move on with our presentation. As always, let's go over some training tips so that you can have a successful learning experience. This particular topic has been approved by the Texas Early Childhood Professional Development System, otherwise known as TechPEDS. Please make sure that you enter your personal TechPEDS training ID on your portal on timthetrainer.com before you complete your assessment. That way, your certificate will automatically be uploaded and verified in your TechPEDS account. That is always extremely helpful and saves you a ton of time and also saves you a lot of drama with licensing and Texas Rising Star and all those folks right there. So really important, not just this training, but any training that you do with us, make sure your TechPEDS ID is in that portal. It just makes your life a lot easier. Make sure you take notes as we go through this material so that you can enhance your learning experience and you can go back and look at your notes at a later date. If you have any questions about the training today or you need more information beyond the scope of the training material, you can always reach out to us either by sending us a message. If you go to the upper right-hand corner of our website, you can send us a direct message. You can call, you can email, and we can respond to you in a timely manner to answer your questions or give you more information beyond the scope of the training material. This meets the definition of instructor-led training with child care regulations. All right? And again, just really trying to make sure everyone understands in order to stay in compliance with child care regulations, make sure that any training that you complete is done in a reasonable amount of time. The easiest way to explain this is the total number of clock hours of training that you complete in a single day cannot exceed the total number of hours you worked in that day. That is the best and easiest way to describe that. Just want to make sure that you're all in compliance right there. Kind of going back to the TechPEDS training ID, if you have not set up an account with TechPEDS, it's quick and easy to do. You can just go to their website, sign up. It's going to take you about 15 or 20 seconds, and you can get that training ID. When you go onto my website and you go to your portal where you have your name and your address and your school and all that, in the field where it says TechPEDS ID, you'll notice a little circle with a question mark. If you click on that, it will give you the link to sign up for your TechPEDS ID. All right, so you don't have to go to your search engine and find it. We've got it right there on our website. Just click on that little circle with the question mark, and you can go in there and set up your ID. I strongly encourage you to do this for all of your employees moving forward. Trust me, it's going to make your life so much easier. So here are our objectives for today. For our little bitty 1 hour session we've got. really want y'all to kind of understand and practice the coaching model that we're going to go over in this course. This is a model that I took a couple of different coaching models that I have used in the past and kind of meshed them together and made a few tweaks based on my experiences and came up with the coaching model that I'm going to share with you today. All right. Also, just want to give you some tools to help you evaluate your employees. What are their needs? What is their skill set? So that can help you determine the course of action that is needed to enhance their professional development. This is something that I've really been focused on here lately. Those of you that have been attending my classes and my webinars, we've got to train based on need. We have to train based on skill set, not on compliance. All right? So listen to that right there. Don't train based on compliance. Train based on skill and need. So many times we just want to stay in compliance with child care regulations. So we go through that book and we're like, what are the required training topics? Click, 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 right? And while, yes, you do need to get your required training topics and stay up to date and refreshed on the latest and greatest information, it's not about training based on compliance. It's what is the current need of the employee? What is their current skill set? And what skills are missing? What skills need to be strengthened? And this changes often. All right. Just because you hire someone and they have a certain skill set, a year or 2 years later doesn't mean that they still have that same skill set or those skills are sharp, right? And I'm gonna share a slide with you later on here that kind of makes you understand that right there and what creates that change and where we need to put that focus. So when you're creating your coaching plans, when you're creating your training plans for your employees, train based on skill and need. All right? What is their current job assignment? Or what is their future job assignment? Focus on that. All right? And again, we're going to talk about some proactive techniques to support your employees with their skills, their abilities, and their training for each job assignment. Those of you that, we talked about roles and responsibilities a couple of weeks ago. And, we talked about we can lend skills and we can practice skills. We can give people training and professional development, but it's that ability, it's that willingness to meet an expectation, that willingness to work in a particular classroom with a particular child, with a particular family, with a particular coworker, that's completely on the employee, right? The willingness and the ability comes from them. But what we get the opportunity to do is to motivate them, all right? And so we'll kind of focus on that right there, where that motivation comes from. All right? I love this quote right here, and this is not a new quote. But so many times I hear from directors and administrators and owners how frustrating it is that you spend all of this money training your employees, providing them high quality professional development, practicing and coaching skills with them, and then they go on their lunch break and they never come back and they walk out on you. And every time a person quits or you have to terminate someone, all of that money that you spent on training and professional development, it's flushed right down the toilet. This quote is perfect right here. It's better to train your employees and lose them than not train them and keep them, right? So don't get discouraged by that. If they do walk out on you or they leave or you have to release them to their future adventures, whatever you did do to coach them and train them, maybe you're just making the better place, the next place that they work at better. All right? So consider it a contribution to the community. All right, I am contributing to the community, or in that person's personal life and how we use our skills on the job at home as well. So don't get discouraged when you lose them. All right, that's what I'm trying to say right here. Now, let's kind of look at this coaching process right here. And we've got 4 elements that I want y'all to focus on as we go through this coaching model. Look at these 4 things right here. When you are going in and coaching someone, all right, it's that opportunity to be a role model. It's that opportunity to show them and model the expectation. And as we are going in and showing and modeling the expectation, we get the opportunity to inspire, to breathe life into hopes, dreams, and goals for that particular teacher. Look, no one ever starts a new job and on their very first day of employment, they go, man, I hope I fail miserably, right? I can't wait till I get fired from here. No, that's never anyone's hopes and dreams. People always have that desire to be successful. They want to exceed expectations. That's where your inspiration comes in and your ability to believe in that person more than they believe in themselves. And with that inspiration, you get the opportunity to influence them, to guide them, to form them, to shape them, to shape their mindset. Okay? You've got to have that positive mindset. People have to be seen different before they can act different, right? And encouraging them every step of the way. Every daily choice that they make, right, is the opportunity to create that positive change. Impart, right, grant, give, confer confidence in the teachers. Y'all, this is the golden ticket right here, is confidence. Confidence in leadership, confidence in their teaching ability, confidence in being able to be successful with a particular child. And so many times in this particular industry, in the early education industry, we are coaching people that often struggle with confidence, right? And especially in a world that we're living in right now, where there's so much uncertainty and so many people just feel beaten down on a daily basis with society and, the world. So, being able to lift up their confidence and keep their confidence high, that's part of the coaching process right there. Now, remember, you can't give what you don't have. You can't lend what you don't have. So that takes the leader having confidence first, right? And this is one of my favorite things about working with brand new directors and brand new owners and brand new administrators is I love that opportunity. I love it when I'm coaching a brand new director or a leader and they find their confidence. And the moment they find their confidence, it's like a beautiful, beautiful thing. Super cool right there. But we've seen it with our teachers too, and them finding their confidence. And then, of course, introducing the opportunity to do things differently, all right? To notice and to practice new habits and positive habits and replacing those negative habits, those mental models, those negative biases. And we've got to change the mindset to be able to do that. Coaching is a transformational process. It is a transformational experience. So whenever you go into a classroom, and we're going to talk about creating coaching plans here in just a little bit, focus on that transformation. I love this when I'm working with a CDA candidate, someone who's working on their Child Development Associate's credential, a school that's going through a national accreditation, a school that's going through Texas Rising Star, and they're trying to get that certification. It's not about the end result. It's not about earning that CDA or getting that accreditation or getting that certification. It's about the transformational process. Where were you, developmentally with your skills? Where were you at step one? And how much did you and your program grow by the end of the process, right? And focus on that transformation and celebrate every step along the way. It's a really beautiful thing right there. And that's what I love so much about accreditations and certifications and CDA. It's the process, it's the transformation. So, I know I just said this a second ago, but again, I really want y'all to keep this in mind. People have to be seen different before they can act different. So coaching involves a leadership mindset. And look, I get it. Sometimes we have employees and they're a lot, okay? And just the presence of them could be a trigger for you. They're constantly calling you back to the classroom, needing help with a particular child, or they need help getting control of the classroom, or they have a lot of needs. They occupy a lot of space, right? And I get that, and that trigger is just always poking you. So before you walk into a classroom to coach, okay, you have to be willing to see that person differently. Instead of seeing them as a nuisance, instead of seeing them as trouble, all right, instead of seeing them as a trigger, you have to see them through loving eyes. And I'm going to walk into that classroom with hope and optimism that this person is going to be successful. Okay, we are going to be successful together. But y'all, if you walk into that classroom with different intent, and you walk in with, oh, I really don't want to do this, I don't want to work with this person, oh, they're not going to be successful, this is going to be such a total waste of my time, guess what? That's exactly what you're going to get. All right? So, focus on that mindset shift. It's going to make a big difference in your progress. All right, so here is the coaching process, and it's very, very simple, all right? And y'all have heard me talk about this before, all right? But what we want to do is first, we tell the employee what the expectation is. So you're going to verbally sit down and go over the expectations that you're looking for, whether we're talking about classroom management, engagement and interactions, physical environment, health and safety, whatever it is that your focus is on. And it might be all of the above, all right? Now, if you're coaching someone and it's all of the above right there, we're going to break this down into smaller pieces, all right? Because it's going to be impossible for you to go into a classroom and coach someone on health and safety and supervision and interactions and engagement and classroom management and developmentally appropriate practices all at the same time. All right, we're going to break it down and focus on each thing individually, and then we'll sew it together. All right, tell them what the expectation is, put it in writing. Okay, have employee roles and responsibilities, a quality assessment of sort. All right, a checklist of what exactly you're looking for. What are your processes? Have this in your employee handbook. If you want to create a different document that has expectations and processes, I think that's a good idea. So what are the responsibilities of the employee? Okay, and responsibilities can sometimes look a little different than job expectations. They sound similar, but they can be a little different. But you want this verbally given to them, but you also want it in writing. All right, so what are the expectations? And then step 2 is that you show them what the expectation is. You got to go in there and model it, okay? So many times where we make a mistake is we make an assumption that the employee knows what the expectation is. It's like, okay, you're going to be working in a toddler classroom, And for health practices, anytime a child is playing with a toy and they get bodily fluid on it, okay, once the child is done playing with the toy, you're going to take the toy and put it in bucket A. All right? And then, later on in the day when you have the opportunity, we're going to sanitize and disinfect the toys that are in bucket A, and we're going to put them in bucket B so that they can air dry. And once they're done air drying, we put them back on the shelf for the children to play with. Okay? Now, that sounds pretty straightforward, right? And you tell them, but you don't show them. Well, depending on their previous training, depending on their previous practices, how they used those disinfecting buckets or how they sanitized their toys and equipment might be very different than what your expectations are. Or maybe they've never used the bucket technique for sanitizing and disinfecting toys, So that's why, again, don't make the assumption that they understand what to do and how to do it. You got to get in there and show them and model it. And y'all, there's nothing that says you have to be perfect at this. All right? You don't have to be the expert. You going in and coaching and modeling is also your opportunity to practice too. I was working with a group just a few months ago, and we were going through the coaching model and we were doing some practicing with coaching. And this one person spoke up and said, well, I don't feel comfortable coaching because I haven't mastered this technique yet. You don't have to master it. All right? You don't have to master it. And then the third part of coaching is to practice with them. Okay? Practice, practice, practice. You can't just go in there one time, tell them, show them, and then practice it once. It's just like the children in the classroom. This is something that needs to be ongoing. All right? So, and this keeps you engaged in the classroom too, which is really awesome. I want to share with you a couple of tools that you can use to really help determine the skill set of your employees and where they're at. All right? If you go to my website, timthetrainer.com, and go to documents, and to be able to find documents, just hover over trainings, the training tab, and it'll bring a drop-down menu, and you can see documents down there. And I have what's called a CD, it's Conscious Discipline Adult Executive Skill Questionnaire. All right? And I encourage you to do this Adult Executive Function Questionnaire with your employees. I would recommend making this part of your onboarding plan right here, because we want to see where they are at with their executive functions. Every one of us, right, we have strong skills and we have weak skills. Typically, the average person will have 3 skills that you're really strong at, and then 3 skills that we're really weak at. And you want to be able to identify this because it's going to help you on where you want to start your coaching point. All right? It also helps you with staffing and program management, because if you have 2 teachers in a classroom, you want to make sure that they balance each other. All right? If I have a teacher that is strong and these 3 particular skills, but they're weak, in these 3, we want to put someone in that classroom that's the opposite, okay? So they're strong in the skills that this person is weak in, and vice versa. So you can see here on the screen, the 12 executive functions, and I'm not going to go into too much detail here because I have a whole nother training that is coming soon that's going to go deeper into executive functions, adult executive functions. But we look at attention, the ability to sustain attention in spite of distractions, boredom, or fatigue, impulse control right here, the capacity to think before you speak, to think before you act. It's that ability to hit the pause button. Flexibility, the ability to face obstacles, setbacks, new information thrown at you, or mistakes and being able to adapt to those changing conditions. And that's hard for a lot of us. I know I struggle with flexibility big time, right? Big time. Empathy, the ability to give up on our own thoughts and feelings so that we can see other people's version of reality. All right? It's not about you, it's about them. Got to be that Q-tip. Quit taking it personal right there. Task initiation, the ability to start a new task, right, on your own. So that is a skill right there. Emotional control, the ability to manage your emotions in order to achieve goals and not let your emotions prevent you from achieving goals, right? Time management, the capacity to estimate how much time you have to complete a task, how much time to allocate for a task, how to stay within those time limits. That's a big skill set right there. Organization, the ability to create and maintain systems. Prioritization, the ability to see what is most important and how we do things. We get the most important things done first. That working memory, the ability to hold information in order to perform a task, or to be the ability to hold information in order to complete a task, right? Y'all, this is something that we work on with the children constantly, right? Because that working memory is not fully developed with them. You can tell them what to do, and 1 minute later, it's gone, right? Well, adults are no different right there. Metacognition, the ability to take a step back and take a bird's eye view of yourself in a situation. Okay, this is a big skill right here that a lot of people struggle with. Some people are really good at this, some are not. And then goal achievement, the ability to complete a task and not leave it unfinished, right? So these are your 12 executive functions. And the 12 executive functions for adults are no different than the 12 executive functions for children, right? Now, what you see on the screen is I've broken these down into two different categories. There's behavior skills, okay, so attention, impulse control, flexibility, empathy, task initiation, and emotional control are all behavior skills. Thinking skills, time management, organization, prioritization, working memory, metacognition, and goal achievement. So you can see the difference right there. And every single one of us, you're usually going to be stronger in behavior skills, but weak in thinking skills, or opposite. Like I'll tell you, for me, I'm definitely stronger in thinking skills. I can struggle with behavior skills from time to time. But again, this is where you want to do this assessment, because it's going to help you with your coaching model and see where your people are at. It's also going to help you, like I said, with staffing and program management, making sure that people are a good fit. Okay? You don't want to put two teachers in one classroom that both struggle with behavior skills, because that means the children are going to be at risk, right? You don't want to put two teachers in the same classroom that are strong in thinking skills, because then they're going to have power struggles, okay? So again, if you go to my website, timthetrainer.com, go to documents, you can download and print off the Adult Executive Skills questionnaire. It's really easy to do. Find out where everyone is at. This gives you a good start right here. Okay? If you need help with this, or you've got questions about it, give me a call, shoot me an email, send me a message, and I can help you work through the Adult Executive Skill questionnaire. Another resource that I want to share with you to help you with your coaching is we do have an early educator assessment on our website, and this is free. All right. If you just go to the home page of our website, you'll see it right there on the right-hand side. It's about 75 questions based on best practices. Your employees can take that questionnaire, and then you can look at the results and get a good idea. Where are they strong? Where are they weak? Where do I need to coach? Okay, so take a good look at that right there. I always encourage the leader to do that assessment first, okay? So that you can kind of see where you're at with your skills and your abilities. So this is really cool right here, and just kind of understanding that we all have a predictive brain, okay? This is how our brain is wired. This is how it functions. We predict ourselves into existence. And a lot of times we can predict outcomes. This is again where I was talking about positive intent. And you have to be able to see things differently. What we focus on, we get more of. Okay? And when we get it right, we get dopamine, which is that joy juice, that feel-good chemical that comes out of the brain. So, this is what I most commonly see in coaching situations is, yeah, I know I have to go into the classroom and coach Amanda. She's not going to get this. She's not going to do things right. This is going to be a total waste of time. She's going to fail miserably, and then you go in and you go through the model, and then, Amanda fails. And you're like, see, I told you. Okay, I told you. And as soon as you say, see, I told you, I knew this was going to happen, that dopamine, comes out of your brain and you get that high. Now, in this situation, it's a negative high. I know that's a contradiction, but that's what it is. I was right, okay? That's where you got to change the mindset, all right? You got to change the mindset. Yes, Amanda is struggling with classroom management. Here's my coaching plan. I'm going to go in. We're going to show them. We're going to practice with them. We're going to continue practicing. We're going to role model, right? And then when Amanda is successful, there's your dopamine rush, all right? But that is our predictive brain. Now, guess what? It's the same thing with your teachers. And that's why it's so important that you talk about your coaching plan before you go into the classroom and initiate it. Because they also have the predictive brain. All right? This person is going to come into my classroom. They're planning on coaching me. I don't need someone telling me what to do. I don't need someone telling me how to do something. They're going to come in here all high and superior, right? They're also predicting this outcome in their brain. So we also have to change their mindset, okay? So, yes, part of this whole plan right here involves motivating people to being open to change. It's that willingness to do things different, okay? And that willingness to do things different is going to change the predictive brain. This is also something that I really wanted y'all to take a look at because when we talk about change and that willingness to change, that willingness to do something, to do things different, and I'm sure all of you would agree, we talk about this so much these days. Running our programs and managing our classrooms is very different than how it was 5 years ago. You can't even compare, our classrooms and our programs to 10 years ago. It's just a completely different animal right there. So when you've got a teacher that's been doing this for 25, 30 years, right? We've got to be able to influence that change. They have to have that willingness to do things different. So you look at this right here, and what are the factors that influence change? Well, only 15% of it is what we're talking about today, which is strategy, right? The coaching process is a strategy. So this is only 15% of that willingness to do things different. Then you got 15% of hope, optimism, that mindset shift, right? So being able to see that person differently, okay, having that encouragement is just as important as the strategy. And then we move on to 30% of relationship. What type of meaningful relationship do you have with that person? And before you start coaching, you have to establish the relationship first. Before you start coaching, you have to establish the relationship first. And that means spending time with that person. One-on-one time, meaningful time. Sitting down with that person and talking, getting to know them, all right? Understanding, what's in here. Okay, but that relationship piece is so important. And then you look at the biggest piece of this pie right here is home and family. And so many times we have the conversation, does the director have the ability to influence home and family? Okay, what happens after hours, what happens at home, okay, that's 40% of their willingness to change. But I do believe that we have an impact on that, because all of the skills that we practice in our classrooms, all of the skills that we practice in our schools, they get to take those skills home with them. Okay, you don't put them in the locker of the school and leave them at the school after hours, right? You get to take these skills home with you. So I do believe that everything we practice in early education not only benefits the classroom and the children, it benefits the adults too, both personally and professionally. So that's, again, why this coaching process is so important. It's not just for business management, it's for human management. Okay? But this is really cool. And if y'all want to take a screenshot of this or take a picture of the screen, this is cool stuff right here. I love it. Many of you are familiar with the Conscious Discipline brain state model. So thank you to Conscious Discipline for allowing me to share this with you. But again, when we go in and we want to start coaching, we want to be aware of the brain state model. When someone is in their executive state, the higher centers of their brain, all right? This is when we have the optimal state of learning. It's that relaxed alertness. We can meet expectations. We can have that willingness to do things different. All right. So when you say, hey, Stephanie, we're going to practice a new skill. And when Stephanie says, yes, I can do that, that is an indicator that she's in her executive state. This is where we want you to be. All right. But if you ever have an employee that says, I can't, okay, I can't work in that classroom. I can't work with this child. I can't practice this new skill. All right, that is an indicator that that person is in a survival state. All right, so at this point in time, you've got to create a felt sense of safety for that person. Look, I understand that this is uncomfortable, but you're safe. And I'm here to keep you safe. And we're going to get through this together. All right? I'm here to keep you safe. If you have that teacher that says, oh, I won't. I will not work in that classroom. I will not work with that child. I will not work with that other person. Right? I won't practice these new skills. That is an indicator that they're in their emotional state. So that person needs presence. That person needs a sense of belonging. Right? They need to know that you're there for them and that you've got their back. Okay? So I just quickly wanted to share this brain state model. I know I've discussed this in other trainings, but when it comes to coaching, you're going to hear in almost every single coaching session, you're going to hear the employee say, I can, I can't, or I won't. All right? So it's really important for you to know where they're at when they make those type of comments, because that's going to be how you respond is going to be based on that right there. So, I talked about in the coaching model, we're going to tell them what the expectation is. We're going to show them and model the expectation, and then we're going to practice with them. Here's how it all kind of works out right here. First thing you got to do is prepare. All right? We prepare by doing those assessments that I told you about, the early educator assessment, finding out where they're at, what are they strong in, what are they weak in. If you want to do the executive skill questionnaire, okay, where are they at with their executive functions? If you want to go in and do classroom observations, looking at their past employment history, where have they worked at in the past? Looking at their previous employer's compliance history. Looking at their previous employer's compliance history is going to tell you, were they properly trained or were they poorly trained? Do I need to untrain this person before I can train them? Okay, this is all important right here. But that's the prepare part. Once you've done your assessments, you've done your questionnaires, you've done your observations, you've done your research on their past experience, then we can plan. Okay, what do I need to focus on first? Am I going to focus on health and safety? Am I going to focus on supervision, developmentally appropriate practices, whatever it may be? Okay, but we're going to plan which little piece of the pie we're going to tackle first. And then we're going to spend time connecting. And that's that relationship piece that I told you about. Spend time with the person, get to know the person, ask them what they want out of this coaching experience. What are they looking for? And whenever when we do connect, listen, and reflect, I think it's always good for you to kind of set the boundary, set the expectation that when I go into a classroom to coach, I'm not going into that classroom to solve your problems for you. I'm going into that classroom to coach you so that you can solve your own problems. And I think it's really important that you address that. So many times when a director or an administrator is called into a classroom, the teacher is expecting you to solve the problem for them. Okay? And that's not how it works. So kind of set those boundaries right there. Listen to what they have to say. What are their needs? What are their strengths? What are their fears? Okay? And don't just listen verbally. Listen to their nonverbal communication, their body language, their facial expressions. What are they doing with their hands? Do they seem anxious? Do they seem nervous? Do they seem excited? Right? And then reflect on that. And when we do the reflection, I like for this to be a separate meeting. So you spend one morning doing your connecting and listening, and then maybe 24 hours you meet with them again to do your reflection. Okay? Hey, we met yesterday to go over the coaching process. Just want to do a follow-up and reflect on our conversation. You want to make sure that you've got everything right. Okay? That you didn't misunderstand something or misinterpret. So that reflecting piece is important. And then we go in and we start the coaching process with the change. Okay? And again, take it in baby steps. Don't expect an employee to have a completely new skill set overnight. Okay? And then you're going to encourage lots and lots of encouragement. Okay? And then you just kind of start the circle all over again. Okay? Because once we accomplish this coaching session, and a coaching session might be 5 sessions. Okay, then we move on to the next skill set, and then the next skill set, and then the next skill set. All right, so again, if you need to take a picture of the screen, definitely do so, so that you've got that. Again, this is just kind of a visual, and you'll notice that this is color-coded to match those brain states. So the red is survival state, the blue is emotional state, the green is executive state. All right. So when we're doing the contrast, all right, I like to act out 2 different experiences. All right. So you're trying to get a child to wash their hands. Okay. Let's practice going over to the child and getting them to wash their hands this way. Okay, now let's do it different. This time I want you to go over and practice washing this child's hands this way, and do it 2 different ways, and then have the conversation. How was that for you? All right, the first time we did it this way. The second time we did it a different way. Let's talk about, how did that make you feel? What did you notice about the 2 different experiences? Okay, this is going to give them that felt sense of safety. We want them to feel the experiences. All right, and this is going to take a lot of practice right here. Avoid using the word try. Okay, try this. Well, that didn't work. Now try this. Okay, eliminate that word try from your vocabulary. Okay, I want you to go over to the child and practice this technique. All right, and don't say, well, that didn't work. Okay, let's do things differently. Now I want you to go over and practice a different technique. Okay, so replace the word try with practice. Okay, then we go into the modeling. When you go into the modeling right there, again, you're showing them that you've got their back, that you're willing to do anything that you're asking them to do. And then the reflection piece right here is when they are in the higher centers of their brain, reflect on their own practices and generate that next step for growth. All right, so that is the coaching model right there. It's a lot. Now, I know some of you kind of came into the webinar a little late. That's okay. We're glad you're here. You got here exactly when you were supposed to get here. Just know that this is recorded, so you can go back and watch the beginning of the webinar. You can go back and watch the whole thing as many times as you need to. But those of you that came in a little late, I did start off today's webinar by saying, this 1 hour webinar is just an introduction to coaching, all right? I could spend 3 full days on this particular topic. If we were doing an actual seminar, I could spend 3 full days on this particular topic. Obviously, I can't cover all of the information, the skills, and the practices in a 1 hour webinar. But I just wanted to give you the base of the coaching model so that you can start applying this in your program, applying this with your teachers. We're going to have some additional webinars coming up in the future that's going to expand on this topic right here. That's why I called it Coaching 101. It's like the beginners, okay? Don't get discouraged, because going into a classroom and coaching, it can feel awkward. It can feel uncomfortable for both you and the person that's being coached. It takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of communication, okay? That's where, when we go back to that circle that we went through, that sitting down with the person and getting to know them and communicating what the process is going to look and feel like, y'all, that is so important. Don't skip that step. Otherwise, if you just go into the classroom and say, I'm going to coach you today, it's awkward, it's uncomfortable, and it kind of builds a brick wall, okay? So the model is meant to be followed, all right? So there you go. And yes, whenever I bridge on this, I am going to let you know that this is going to be the next step, step 2, step 3, those type of situations, so that you know that we're building on this right here. Okay, awesome. That is our Coaching 101. If you have any questions, please give me a call, shoot me an email, send me a message from our website. If you need more information beyond the scope of this material, please reach out to me. But again, take it slow, take it in small pieces, practice, practice. If this is your very first time coaching, I encourage you to role model, or not role model, I apologize. I encourage you to role play with someone first. All right. So you and another adult, maybe another manager, get a baggie of Legos and sit down with each other. One person be a child, one person be the adult, and role play the coaching process. All right. So that you will understand what it's like to be the receiver, what it's like to be the coach. But that way, you've got a little bit of some skills before you go into the classroom. Okay. Awesome. Hey, did y'all notice I've got a brand new t-shirt on today. If you go to our website, timthetrainer.com, we have these brand spanking new t-shirts for sale. Go onto the website and check that out. And we just rolled these out on our leadership cruise last week. Y'all missed a good cruise. It was a good one. So these are brand new shirts. They are available for sale on our website right now. So check that out. Very, very busy next few weeks coming up. Today was actually the start of busy time. We have our training tomorrow on the power of positive leadership in Lewisville, Texas. It is an in-person only event. We do have about 3 spaces left. If anyone wants to do a last-minute registration, that it is about to sell out, but we're looking forward to that. Next week, I'm at our national conference in Orlando, Florida, for the Association for Early Learning Leaders. And then the week after that, I go to New York for the Business Value Conference. And I have a very exciting session that I'm doing on understanding the value of your business and lessons from the exiting of a business and things that we wish we would have known before the exit. And then the week after that, we have our virtual Director Credential course, our 5-day Director Credential course. Registration is still open for that right there too. So lots going on here in the Tim the Trainer world. But thank you all for joining me today. Have a wonderful holiday weekend this weekend. I hope you spend meaningful time with family and friends and enjoy this beautiful weather that we're having in North Texas. Hopefully you're having it too. Let's go ahead and get the link posted in the chat screen for you to complete your assessment. Hopefully Kent or Leslie will post that link. There it is. Awesome. So if you're needing a certificate of completion for this webinar, you can complete the assessment right there. And we will see you again all very, very soon. Thank you for your time this morning. Y'all are great. Bye.